people to know right now that the older you get, and I mean this, the older that you get in life, the less and less prison becomes a deterrent.
Want to garrot them. And what worries me is it is going to lead to bad situations if this carries on, because people are just going to take the law into their own hands.
Go ahead and start this video out by saying that this type of stuff right here was bound to happen. So a gentleman in Panama yesterday ran into one of those Just Stop Oil protest groups, and let's just say that the video here is probably going to get me in trouble with YouTube. I'm going to play it anyways, but there's going to be a header on it. Just know that I'm going to have to, once again, put pictures over the sounds, put pictures over the actual events themselves, mostly due to the fact that it does involve a few people getting, let's just say, smoke checked. One, of course, has died. The other one is good old-fashioned wounded, but still, you got to ask yourself a question. When was somebody going to actually step up and go to this level when dealing with these types of people?
¿Por qué no dispara? Pues nos va a tener que matar a todos. Eso es una... Nadie está... ¡No!
Guys, I am showing you some stuff here in the B-roll footage of previous events involving the Just Stop Oil people. You saw at the very, very beginning that you had these people who were screaming and hollering about politics. They go in there and they destroy paintings, they destroy art, they hold up the road, which obviously keeps people from going about their daily lives. There was one particular incident that I'm showing you, I may have went ahead and led with the situation in England where a Just Stop Oil protest group blocked the road for an ambulance that was trying to get through. Yeah, this right here is not good. You see, the thing about these Just Stop Oil protesters is that you're allowed to have your politics, even though I don't agree with them, even though a lot of people don't agree with what these people have got to say, because obviously you need the oil, you need gas, so that way you can drive. You need the oil so that way you can kind of heat home, stuff like that. You see, a lot of their protests are counterproductive. They're actually doing a lot more to harm the situation than they are helping, and you're actually making people not like you. Now, I understand the whole point about peaceful protests, and oftentimes peaceful protests can even lead to positive results because people will think that you're protesting for a noble cause. The problem is this right here. We need oil, gas, coal. We need this type of stuff to heat homes, to keep people from freezing to death in the wintertime. I talked about this in a video, well, not so much the oil aspect of it, but I talked about the winter in a recent video I did yesterday on the situation in Chicago with the whole immigration situation getting out of control, and the fact that they're having a hard time housing the people that came in, and you've got winter coming up. Could lead to a massive humanitarian crisis. But obviously people need to drive their vehicles, need to drive the trucks. You obviously need trucks to transport food. You obviously need trucks to transport other goods, things that people do in fact need. So a lot of these protests are not deemed noble based off that itself because, of course, these protests, once again, lack overall common sense. The environmentalist crowd, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst. I would also say that the PETA crowd is right there with them. But of course, nobody takes PETA seriously. I still eat my steak. I still eat my chicken. I still eat beef. I still eat pork like crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. My diet's not the best thing in the world. But at the same time, there ain't nothing in this world, in my opinion, that's actually worse than a vegan who likes to preach. The next worst thing, or now probably the worst thing now, is the person who wants to preach on behalf of the big, the Green New Deal, electricity, all that type of stuff, which is important, of course. And I've always believed that nuclear should be explored. But the thing is this right here. You're interrupting people's daily lives and you're demanding something that, quite frankly, is not going to realistically happen. Think about this really quick. You already had one person, I just showed you earlier, lose their lives over the fact that they cannot get through a protest. You're holding people up who've got to go to the hospital. You're holding up people whose daily lives. Once you start doing that there, you lose all credibility in your cause. You can't do this type of crap because then you turn around and you end up coming off looking like just a good old-fashioned idiot. That right there is what you look like at this moment in time. You are destroying other people's lives. You are getting in the way of their ability to make money, to feed their families, to be successful in life. By the way, some of these people who, by the way, you're impeding some of their lives, they're probably people who do, in fact, agree with you and probably think that there should be regulations put in place. Me, I'm not one of those. I'm just letting you know that if you want to protest for something like this, you may want to go about it a different way. But then again, though, anytime these people show up to a debate, they just end up looking like blithering idiots. Just a couple of examples of what I mean.
With countries like China and India, who are by far the worst polluters in the world. It's not actually the UK. And I don't see any of these heroic protesters getting on a plane to Beijing or to Moscow or to Mumbai. There's a moral cowardice about this. They're targeting a country which actually has been doing more than almost any other to be progressive in this area. But aside from that, if you're going to have a movement, you've got to bring people with you. I don't know anybody, literally anyone, who is watching these scenes time and again at all these sporting events and thinking, that's going to make me join this movement. It actively puts people off.
Okay, how about some facts on China? Because it comes up all of the time. What about China? The per capita carbon emissions of the people in China are tiny, right? Way smaller than they are in Britain. And just last week, it was announced that China has built more solar panels than the rest of the world put together, right? Which includes Britain. And they're at 50% green electricity on their grid now. And that's for a country of over 1 billion people.
What percentage, all right, but what percentage of pollution,
at a hell of a rate.
What percentage of the global pollution comes from China?
Bear in mind, it's 1.1 billion people making most of the world's stuff, including the stuff that we have here. So they are a big polluter, absolutely. Tell me.
No, you tell me. You're the expert.
I'm telling you, per capita, as an individual person, it's a tiny footprint. That's important.
Percentage of global pollution.
There are 8 billion... No.
You don't want to tell me, do you?
There are 8 billion people on this planet. I'm telling you I don't know. You should tell me, right? I'm telling you I don't care. Per capita, it's tiny, and we should have a fair share of the carbon footprint globally. They built more solar power than the rest of the world put together, Piers, and they're at 50% green on their electricity grid. I say those are amazing achievements when you say, what about China?
Yeah, I say they produce more than a quarter of the world's pollution. And I don't see anyone from Greta Thunberg to you guys getting out there to Beijing and shouting at them or wrecking their sporting events. And we all know why. Let's bring in Riz, who's chuckling away because you find all this terribly amusing. Riz, you supported Just Stop Oil. No one at Wimbledon today supports Just Stop Oil. They just think you're a bunch of idiots. I know you weren't there today. You were shouting at the Royals up in Scotland. Why do you support this kind of protest that we're seeing at all these sporting events?
Oh, I'm not sure I've completely condoned that. And to be clear, I'm not speaking on behalf of Republic today. I speak on behalf of No More Royals. But absolutely, we are protesting in Scotland. And Piers, you're gonna, you've just been going on at these guys at Just Stop Oil about why are you disrupting ordinary people and why don't you target the right thing? And we've been doing that, shouting at the king.
Why do you support that method of protesting? Why don't you come out and condemn Just Stop Oil like Trevor Nielsen, who was funding some of this stuff before, has suddenly realised the penny's dropped, it doesn't work?
I'd like to talk about coronation because it's, but To respond to that question, we're in a climate crisis. It's horrifying. I'm terrified for my future, and Just Stop Oil are one of the only groups of people at the moment who are doing anything about that. But as I say, I'd like to focus on the issue.
Well, I'm sure you would. I'd like to focus on what's just happened because it's indicative of a summer of protest by people who think that they can convert people to their cause. Even if people are inclined to do so, we're now at a point where you can tell from the audience reactions at these events, they literally want to garrote them. And what worries me is it is going to lead to bad situations if this carries on, because people are just going to take the law into their own hands.
Bad when the moral orator is Piers Morgan of all people, but then again, at the same time, he's not wrong. China has got the most pollution of any nation in the world, and I can already hear somebody saying, exactly like the lefty there said, that China makes most of the stuff that we quite frankly use. But then again, it's also funny, too, how the left is always screaming and hollering that we need to end our reliance on China, which is actually something that I do, in fact, agree with them on. We need to end our reliance on China. But everything they do kind of plays into China's hands. It's almost like these people want to be governed. It's almost like they want to be babied and burped and all that type of stuff there. Nothing that these people demand is even realistic, but still at the same time, it's really bad when Piers Morgan, of all people, is the moral orator of this conversation. And he's right. People are going to start doing stuff about it. They're going to take the law in their own hands, kind of like this gentleman did at 77 years old. And I opened the video by saying that the older you get, the less and less prison becomes a deterrent. And you'll hear me explain that a little bit more here in a second. But the fact of the matter is this right here. People are tired of this. These people come off like absolute loons and they disrupt people's lives. When you start disrupting people's lives, people will eventually get angry and they will eventually take matters into their own hands. Me personally, I think the best way to do this is to just simply get out of the car and maybe grab the paint or whatever and pour it on their heads and just kind of shame them a little bit. Truth be told is, this is kind of why I say, well, when I say something like, we need more bullies in the world, I mean that because we need people to bully idiots like Poindexter liberals like this. I don't know if that was a girl or a guy. Something else too, I need to say this. I'm not British. I'm not English. But last I checked, the king and the queen didn't really have any power in England anymore. So why are you protesting? A lot of these people are just spoiled kids. I mean, when you actually look at the backgrounds of the people who are doing these protests and you begin to go down the rabbit hole, you find out that the vast majority of these kids are actually, they come from a very, very pleasured environment. They typically tend to come from suburban homes. They typically tend to come from places that are a little bit more well-off than others. So therefore, they can afford to get out there and complain and whine about how it is that oil is a problem, when in reality, we obviously need that oil. That oil is very important, and I could give you guys a million reasons why that's the case, but this video right here, for the most part, is about these people trying to impede other people's lives. Go back to what I said before. You got a guy who's trying to get to the hospital, you impede him. You got another person who's trying to get to work, so therefore you impede him. So after a while, you would probably think to yourself that pushing these people out of the road, I don't know, you guys saw in the B-roll footage how it was that a truck came in with other people kind of pushing these people out of the way. People are eventually going to respond to this. There's also been cases, videos that's been thrown out there on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it nowadays. I typically call it X, formerly known as Twitter, or I'll say Twitter, now known as X. But the thing is this right here, you see that a lot of people have gotten fed up with this. You see videos of people grabbing these Just Stop Oil protesters and throwing them off the road, kicking them off the road, basically treating them how they probably never been treated before, which means that they've probably never been spanked or never been disciplined before. This is one of the main reasons, one of the main problems that we have today. So when I look at this entire situation, I oftentimes love to look at the parents. I understand that colleges have a way of radicalizing people, but if parents were smart and they could actually teach their kids right from wrong, or maybe even a little bit of civics and what is not at a much, much younger age, by the time you get to college, the indoctrination will not be as effective. It'll be effective in the short term, but after a while, you'll kind of snap out of things. Parents need to be there to kind of balance this type of stuff out. The fact of the matter is, the vast majority of these kids are, in fact, what I said. They're mostly whiny little babies. There was a situation, I want to say it was in Germany, where they had actually protested, not realizing that the stunt that they pulled, which was to pretty much, I think they glued themselves to the floor. Some people used handcuffs, and they didn't seem to realize that the lights were going to be going out real soon. It was in a museum. No, it wasn't a museum. It was a place that was owned, I think, by the automaker that they were protesting, and they decided to just sit there. And then after about 4 or 5 hours, and they realized that the place was going to close, they started to complain because they had to go to the bathroom. You can't stop your own biological time clock. I have no idea when I'm going to have to go to the bathroom next time to either A, take a piss, or either B, take a crap. Either way, it's going to happen. You have a general idea, but sometimes things do in fact happen, and people do in fact just have to go. When nature calls, you need to answer. Fact of the matter is, these people did not think about this type of thing, and the mere fact that these people don't think shows you exactly how idiotic these people are. Most of these kids, by the way, when you ask them a follow-up question, they completely fall apart. So you're probably asking yourself a question. We haven't really and truly spoken about the man that much. Well, I don't think there's really a whole lot to speak about when it comes to him. I gave you guys a bit of an opening there with him. And what I'll say is this right here. After a while, this type of stuff is going to happen. If you block a road, somebody's going to take drastic measures. Also, something else, too, is that the gentleman who did shoot these people, he, for the most part, tried to reason with them first. Like, he actually tried to reason with these people. He tried to say, you need to get out of the road. I need you to leave. Look, if somebody's waving a gun or somebody's got a gun out, you may want to get out of the way. You may want to get out of the road. You may want to, walk off. I mean, this guy right here has obviously done everything he could to be reasonable about the situation. He told you to get off the road. He's an old man, 77 years old. By the way, let me say this really quick. The older you get, the less and less, and I mean less, does prison become a real thing in people's minds. And what I mean by that is this right here. The older you get, the less you will care about possibly going to prison. You just want to go through your day. You just want to do what it is that you need to do. And as a result of this, what ends up happening is that this old man just didn't care. Just get the hell out of my way is basically what he's trying to say. He tried to reason. He tried to plead. They pushed his hands, probably screaming, you're not going to do anything. And of course, the old man, being 77 years old, said, you know what? I really don't have much life left. I probably don't really have a whole lot more going on in my life except getting to the destination I need to get to. So why not just go ahead and... That's just probably what he did. That's probably what really and truly happened in this situation. So you got to ask yourself a question. Is this type of stuff going to continue? Well, seeing how this right here was designed to be more of a short, direct, to the point type video, just let me go ahead and say this right here. It's probably going to happen more and more often. I'm being serious. It more than likely will. This happened in Panama. All right. This happened in Central America. This right did not happen in New York. This did not happen in Florida. This did not happen in Boston, Massachusetts, or Chicago, Illinois. But at some point in time, if you keep blocking the road, if you just straight up keep not only blocking the road, but keep going about ruining other people's day, ruining their lives, after a while, they're going to respond. In some ways they respond are not exactly going to be, how do I say, the most polite way in the world. Let me give you one more example of what I mean. Well, I was going to college, and this is back in 2017. Second time I went to college, I actually took a degree seriously. I was going to a community college. Now, most community colleges, you don't really have a whole lot of traffic around these areas. So typically you can get in and out, go park somewhere, go park where it is that you're allowed to go park at, depending on the parking sticker that you have. And you can go inside the classroom and you can, go to school, do whatever. Okay, so then when I transferred to the university, a university is a little bit different. It typically tends to be a little bit more traffic around there. There's even a police department for just about every single university. But something that you'll notice is with the places around, you'll notice that there are a lot of kids walking around, a lot of young people walking around with earbuds in their ear. Now, let me say this really quick. To all those people out there who like to drive with their earbuds in, all those people who like to walk around with their earbuds in, I got no problem with you. I understand why you do it. You want to listen to something. Maybe you got a phone, whatever. I get that. But what I do have a problem with is that when you've got traffic and you've got vehicles flying around, that you get mad and you complain when something happens to you. There are several incidents where the university transit around the area that I live at, has actually ran over people. You know what the number one thing that we find out, the most common denominator that we find out about these kids who got ran over? They all had earbuds in. They were just walking around, walking about the day, just doing that right there, and then all of a sudden, bam, they're getting nailed by a daggone bus. Now, why is this the case? Well, because they're not looking to the left, they're not looking to the right. Now, how in the world did we get to this right here? How do we get from just stop oil protesters blocking the road to this right here? Because it's called stupidity. You don't protest on a highway. You don't protest in the middle of a road. It's common sense, which is something, quite frankly, that is a virtue that we just don't have. And with that right there being said, guys, I'm just going to let you know that this type of stuff right here was going to happen. So make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section. There's probably going to be more of it. Please share the video. please leave a comment. I'll see you guys later.